Hey there, my friend. It's Trisha Carr. Real quick before we head into this episode, I just want to make sure that you know about Modern Mystic Life, a subscription service for spiritual mentoring and education. The monthly subscription is only $11.11 per month. We have regular support and inspiration delivered with the utmost ease right into your text messenger 2 to 4 times per week. You can use your mobile device or your desktop messenger to access the lessons and meditations, a monthly MP3 download of a produced meditation, at least once per month live meditation led by me. There is no account login, and we have a monthly live class workshop. These are usually $35 for non-subscribers, so it is quite a deal. And the community is amazing. This is a way for you to support the Charmed Life podcast and also a way for us to be able to work more closely together. So do check out how you can subscribe in the show notes. I hope to see you there. Hello and welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. And I am your host. My name is Trisha Carr. I am exceedingly excited to bring to you this episode. This is with a phenomenal guest, someone who has been working in the field of human design for a while now. Interestingly, we talk about what a while means in the context of human design. But I'm very excited to welcome you into this conversation because I imagine that if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you have been hearing that all of the different guests I've been welcoming on, and also some of my solo episodes talking about human design. And you may be starting to get into human design and experiment. If you haven't yet, I do encourage you to check out your profile. You can, all you need is your birth time and of course your birthday, your birth time, and where you were born, and you plug it into the portal, whichever one you choose, and you'll be able to get your body graph is what it's called, plus your type, your profile, your strategy, your authority. And then you can start to work with this little by little. As we talk about in this episode, experimenting with it and experiencing it is the way to see how it really helps you, works with what's natural for you. And so if there are ways that you can do this. You could just Google human design chart. You can also check in the show notes of this particular episode because my guest does have a platform for you to be able to pull your human design profile. Many different ways you can do that. So grab that if you haven't yet. And there's also a list down below of a couple of episodes with other human design experts in case you wanted to hear some more from different perspectives. So I haven't even told you who it is yet, but I want to also invite you to please subscribe to the podcast, follow it. If you go into your app, you'll see you can either follow or you can subscribe, whatever it says for you. But also, I really want to give a heartfelt invitation for you to leave a review because that really helps with boosting our light quotient, both for this podcast as well as between you and me. And then I also encourage you to share it. If you find something, feel something resonate, perhaps someone else would experience that too. So thank you so much for being here. And I welcome you now into this conversation with my guest that I'm very excited to have the opportunity to talk with. Her name is Erin Claire Jones. Erin is a human design guide and leadership coach, and she offers a blueprint to how you operate so you can perform at the top of your personal and professional game. I first became aware of Erin in 2019, I believe, and it was at this place that I was working called The Den Meditation. The Den it's in Los Angeles, and it's now closed. Didn't quite make it through the pandemic, as a lot of businesses didn't, but it was phenomenal when it was there. The owner of the Den is Tal Rabinowitz. And so Erin was actually there, came to Den and did a workshop. Now, I didn't actually get to attend her workshop because I was teaching a meditation class at the exact same time that she was doing the workshop. And so I wasn't able to participate. But then I I learned about her from that. I'd already started to work with my human design, my experiment in it. And then I listened to her on the Den meditation podcast and just some other places, and started following her on Instagram, and just really love what she's doing in this work. Erin is a projector, as we talk about, and she actually has been working in human design since 2015. Now, that's kind of not a long time, but it really is. It seems to be these two different, experts, two different, I guess, time frames of experts, people who may be working in a decade or 2 decades, because it was synthesized. It was brought through into humanity in 1987 by a man named Ra Uru Hu. Previous to taking the name Ra Uru Hu, his name was Robert Krakauer. I believe it was Robert Krakauer. At any rate, he channeled this system in 1987. And when I say he channeled it, the story goes that he was on a retreat, and he went back to his cabin, and the place was filled with light beings, and said, "Let's get to work." And then thereafter, he referred to the voice as how he was being guided to bring through the synthesis of a new system called human design, and taught on it the rest of his whole life, and he passed in 2013. So there are many people who have been working in human design since like the 90s. There's quite a few people, but really kind of working in an experience, and probably very excited about it, seeing how incredibly valuable and impactful it is, but so few people really understanding it. But literally in the last 2 years, it has exploded, especially among those who are self-help, personal development, spiritual seekers. And so it's interesting that she is a pioneer, even though it's really only 2015. It's kind of fascinating. It's a very exciting time that we live in. And I know we feel some pressure because there's a lot of upheaval going on, but I promise there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. So that is all to say that I just love this deep dive conversation that I have with Erin Claire Jones. I hope that you find some deep inspiration, and remember to let anything wash over you so that it can, start to percolate inside the body, inside the form, and then just experiment with one piece at a time and see how you find resonance with it and how it benefits your life and your journey. Okay, without further delay, welcome to this conversation with Erin Claire Jones, and I will chat with you on the other side. Okay, Erin, I am just beyond thrilled, having to ground my open throat so that I don't get too weird and stammery and everything. Talking with you, I have been looking up to the content you've been sharing for so long. And so thank you so much for being really a pioneer in human design, which is kind of weird because I think I've heard you say it's been since 2015 that you started your experiment and your work in human design. But can you just share with everyone a bit about your journey or the work that you're doing, and how you got into all of this as the projector?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could have ever anticipated that my world would be all about human design. I definitely did not know what it was growing up. I think it's only recently that it's kind of like reached a much more mass
Exploded.
audience. Yeah, and still it's not a mass audience. Like we're still just at the beginning. But I was introduced to human design very serendipitously. I was living in New York City. I went to a friend's gathering. I sat next to a stranger and he asked to read my human design chart. And I, like many of us, I was like, okay, tell me everything. I want to hear like what you see. And he did this little mini reading, and it was just the most accurate and insightful thing I'd ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like he put my internal experience into words in a way that I'd never been able to.
Yeah.
And I also felt like he called me out because I was like, I've been avoiding that my entire life. Like, am I allowed to actually live that way? And so I always say human design is equal parts relieving and confronting. It like gives us all the permission and also calls us out. And so he actually ended that conversation by saying, Erin, I think you're meant to do this, and I think that we're actually meant to do it together. And so he really, and I know, very intense and cosmic. And so he'd been studying the system for a decade at that point, and he invited me in to study and build a business with him. pretty wild. And as a projector, you know, if people are familiar, our strategy is really all about being invited in. So it was a
Mhm.
very kind of explicit, just like invitation. And it was not one that felt right immediately. I was like, this is weird. This is a new system. But it did really pull me. And so, you know, I felt into it. We connected a lot more. And I think the more he revealed to me about the system, the more sense it made. And I had
Mhm.
come from a not even a corporate, a more startup background. And he started to show me how human design could be used in teams. And my mind was just blown. And so I said yes to the invitation. And he was my first teacher. And we built a business together for a couple years. And it was amazing, but it was also at a time where human design was still so nascent
Yeah.
and like very on the fringes.
Mhm.
And so it was just like so much work educating people and also trying to get clients. And it was just like, it wasn't totally the right time yet. And so it's been an amazing journey. And then I launched my own practice in 2018. And it really coincided with like the world finding out about human design in a new way.
Mhm.
So it's been a pretty amazing journey ever since. And I appreciate you saying I'm a pioneer. It is funny because it's still so new,
Yeah.
but like I have been studying it longer than a lot of the people that are like sharing about it now, only because like most people just found out about it, you
Yeah.
know, and there are also so many amazing people that have been studying about it for decades, you know, but I do think that there's a new wave of human design people that are really translating the information and make it so much more accessible and empowering and available to the mainstream. And so it's been really beautiful to kind of witness that transformation over the past couple of years.
Yeah, and it's been like a couple of years. So I was initiated into it in April of 2019, and I'm basically an expert now. And I'm not saying that like to pat
Yeah.
myself on the back, but there's
Yeah.
something about how quickly the downloading is coming for the people who are coming online with it.
Yes.
But in 2019, even I was like trying to find out. I was like Googling, and it's like, okay, I have to buy this 150 thing from Jovian Archive, and it's just
Yeah.
raw rambling,
I know,
quite
right?
frankly.
You're like, "Well, that title did not
What?
relate to what was in there."
I know. I
Yeah,
mean, God bless Raw, but I think every single one of us who learn about it are like, what? But
I know.
what? I mean, thank you for being the messenger, but what are you talking about even? Like, you're not a teacher
Totally.
in
Yeah.
some ways. So, yeah, but and then I can only imagine if you have even a few more years on it because
Yeah.
that was 2019. And I was like, I felt like I was screaming into the abyss. Now, on my podcast, someone comes on and I don't even like preface it. I go, "What's your human design?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm a manifesting generator 3-5." They know.
Totally.
Everyone in the metaphysical, mystical, self help
Yeah.
field really does know about it, and it's very exciting. But then, yeah, there's this other deeper pioneer. Can you even imagine people that have been working in it
Mm,
since the 90s, and
it's
they
really
must
wild.
really felt like so alone. But I've talked to a few of those
Totally.
people too, and they're like, it's amazing. I'm so excited. I love
Yeah.
that it's
Well, they've been
coming
waiting for this
online.
moment. Yeah. But it's a really interesting dance because there's like a very traditional way of communicating about human design, which is very
Mm.
like by the book and according to what Ra kind of asked for and standardized. And then there are people that are being more liberal with it, you know?
Hmm.
And like, I don't think there's like a good or bad here. I definitely like took a very foundational traditional route in my education, but I have actually translated so much and that's felt really important. So it is an interesting dance. You know, you can see kind of some divides in the community, but I think we can all agree that like it's so amazing that human design is really kind of catching fire and really reaching so many more people than I think ever any of us could have ever anticipated. Like I remember
Yeah.
bringing human design to my partner right when I discovered it, and it was just like he's like no one knew about it, you know, and he was like, "This is cool, Erin. Like let's see where it goes." And like it's just amazing to look at it now and it's like everyone knows about it, at least in our worlds. And it just really, even my dad was here recently and like everyone at our dinner like knew their human design, not even because like, you know, they'd ordered their blueprint, they'd done all this stuff and like I didn't even know, you know? And he was like, I just can't believe what a common language it is. And I was like, it really is so wild, like how quickly that's happened.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up this idea of traditional or new, and Ra Uruhu, who was the messenger, the original synthesizer, if you will, of the system, downloaded it from light beings who showed up in his his cabin. I'm not saying this to you, Erin. I'm saying it for the sake of
Yeah, of
everyone else.
course. Yeah.
And but as I understand, and I've read, he's passed now, so that's why I speak him in past tense. I mean, he did say it's not mine. Take it and do
Hmm.
something with it. And he passed in 2013.
Yeah,
And so we just passed 2012, and there's just so much that has come online.
totally.
And I am a fan of kind of learning something that is the original. I'm always
Agreed.
kind of interested in that. I want to
Yeah.
know how how it was founded classically.
Totally.
And then and but the thing is, it is alive. And what else? What the other thing about it is that it's always for everyone. It's an experiment. So even if
100%.
something is across the board agreed upon by everyone has a similar experience. Yes, definitely your view means this and you experience this way. If it doesn't work for you, then just don't use it,
100%.
And the experiment part of it too, I think, is how we can learn it best.
Mhm.
Did you learn so much? Did you learn it by actually giving readings to other people in addition to much more than studying, probably, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that and I love what you said of just like it's not mine, do something with it. And like I'm very similar to you. It's like I went through very traditional education because like I wanted to learn it all from the source.
Hmm.
But then like once my foundation was strong, that's what kind of really, really empowered me to really communicate about it in new ways.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a role for both. Yeah, I learned about it so experientially. I started studying human design with that first teacher in 2015, and we started doing readings together. And so basically, I mean, it's not very smart business wise, but it really worked for us. We did all of our readings together, and he would share a lot and then I would translate it. And it was just like such a beautiful way to learn. Also, my former business partner was a manifesting generator. Had a very different design than me. He was, I was 25, he was 50. We were at like very different phases in our lives. And we really like our dynamic and our journey was so revealing, and so we really
Mm.
kind of looked to our own design so much to kind of really understand how best to support each other. um, and yeah, I mean, I've done so many thousands of readings over the years. Like I'm just winding them down now. And the only reason I really continued to is that I just learned so much from actually witnessing and talking to people about how human design was actually showing up in their lives. And
Mhm.
I think that's what I
Mhm.
really desired. I was like, I've learned the book stuff, like I want to just see what it's actually happening for people and what happens when they actually like live this and do this thing. And so that's where so many of my insights have come from, is just through conversation.
Well, and you think one of the things that's so beautiful about it and why it makes sense that it's an experience or an experiment is that it's a synthesis of those four main observational sciences, as the Kabbalah, the I Ching, the astrology, and chakra system.
Mhm.
Just those four main ones. Those were all centuries even of humans observing and experiencing and then communicating about it and saying, okay, this is what, Venus feels like or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it really, all of those observational sciences are experiential as well. So it makes
Mhm.
sense.
Totally. And I think,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's all.
Oh, I also think it's a really empowering way to engage with human design or any system, to kind of hear
Hmm.
the information and then really put it in your hands to actually just try it and see what
Yeah.
happens. Human design is not a thing where it's like, this is it and it must be true. It's like, try it, see what happens, see if your life
Hmm.
gets better, And so, like, I think that when people really experiment and embody it, it really is pretty astounding what happens in their life, but it
Yeah.
really requires they actually have the courage to do that.
Yeah, and the courage is yeah, you got to kind of sometimes leap. I mean, some of the I think everybody's design, everybody's everything, everybody is conditioned. Just
Yeah,
because sacral defined people are 70% of the population, they get plenty conditioned too.
totally.
Everybody has that. And so it does take a sense of it does seem to take a little bravery, a little courage to act on it, but none of it happens unless really, like you said, you embody it.
Totally.
And I realized that, actually on another podcast with a human design expert whose name is Tressa Rivera, I had this download while we were talking that humans tend to go like, I want to understand it. I want to understand it. And like, if you think about we're standing under something and it's not coming down into the body,
Mm,
and that's the problem.
totally.
Understanding it, and we're actually, the universe is saying, as you wish, stand under that as long as you want to. It's not
Yeah.
going to work until it gets into your body.
Yes. Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think it's such an important thing to remember because like I've worked with so many people, as I'm sure you have, who like want to know every single detail. And I'm like, I get it. Like I have that
Mhm.
impulse too. And like I want to tell you about all your gates and all the things, but like if you're not actually integrating any of it, like this is meaningless,
Yeah.
And I think that like human design offers us so much juicy information, but I think the magic of human design is that it actually gives us tools to work with that information and actually integrate it in our lives. And I just think
Mhm.
we often don't need more information. We just need like the right information at the right times to really spark transformation. So it's just a good reminder in any of these systems where it's just like take the information, play with the information, come back for more when you're ready. But like there's no need to kind of remember it all at once because that will get you so much more in your head than in your body.
Mm. Yeah, and actually the word information, it has to come in order
100%.
to be form, in order
Yeah.
in, a part of form. We shared one another's charts, and so I'm a reflector, so I feel like my niche or specialty in human design is open centers because
Yeah. You've
that's
got
what
them
I'm
all.
wrangling with. That's what I'm
Yeah.
dealing with. But at the same time, so you have a lot of definition, which is really cool. But then I feel like when there's definition around open centers, there's maybe even more pressure on that open center
Yeah.
than one that has more openness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think when there's well, also for reflectors in particular, like even though there's so much openness, there's also a lot of resilience.
Hmm.
Like when they really start to learn, like, oh, I'm gonna like let these things flow out of me as quickly as they come in, and just be this really like objective, wise observer. I do think I know in my design I have two undefined centers, and I think that um yeah, they're really big lessons for me. It's not distributed. It's so concentrated in those areas, and they
Yeah.
also have like a very similar vibe. And so like it's just my lesson is very clear. But yeah, it's definitely when there is so much definition around it. And I think so few, it's really brought a lot of intensity to those centers.
Yeah, intensity. Can you shed some light from your experience, whether with your own experiment and journey or with your clients, about the open heart will? The challenges and the gifts of having that open heart will.
Yeah, and so if anybody's looking up their chart, this is the little like the triangle that feels like off center, and if
And
it's
it's small.
it's small but it's potent, like everything else feels like a little bit symmetrical and then it's just like off on the side and it's if it's undefined or open in your design, it's white. And I'm sure that you include links to look it up, but you can also look it up at humandesignblueprint.com if you haven't looked up your chart. So if you have that center white in your design, as we both do, it means that our sense of self esteem can vacillate, where there might be days where we feel like we are just like so capable and so motivated and like so on top of the world, and days where we really feel like not in our worth, and really are
Mhm.
doubting it all. And this is like a very natural vacillation. And so I would say the biggest shadows and challenges is really getting lost in that kind of like low self worth and feeling a need to prove ourselves to our partners, our clients, the world, our friends, and just like prove that we're enough. And
Mm.
often in doing that, we just burn out because there's honestly nothing to prove. And so I think the lesson for us, the most important one, is that there's nothing to prove. And like anything that's guided by a need to prove is not correct for us.
Mm.
And it's so
Yeah.
like in small things, like I'm going to go to this gathering to prove that I'm a good friend. I'm going to post this thing to prove that I'm smart. Like they're so silly, it feels like, but they're actually so important,
Mhm.
and honestly, like trying to prove can lead to a lot of success, but never sustainable success,
Yeah.
and so I think we are here to have so much wisdom around worthiness and really help others be worthy and connect to their sense of self-worth. And I think these big lessons for us are meant to be areas where we can really teach and share with other people. And there is a hierarchy of the ways in which these white centers or undefined centers impact us. And this one is at the very top.
Yeah.
And so I think we live in a culture of a lot of like not enoughness, trying to prove because like this is open and undefined for 70% of us,
Yeah.
And so I think that like, I think the biggest lesson for me with this center is whenever I'm making a commitment, I just ask myself, like, am I saying this thing or doing
Oh,
this
yeah.
thing because I'm trying to prove my value? Or is it coming from like genuine inspiration and excitement? And I think just like that simple awareness has made it so clear how much I'm trying to prove and has allowed me to like not act from that in so many moments.
That's a great strategy. I feel like, and then you still don't know for sure, because if you're going to make an appointment that's like 2 weeks away or a month away, you still don't, even if it's coming from your excitement, you still don't really know along the path if you're going to have the energy for it, if you'll have depleted your energy,
Yeah.
right? It's still a challenge, but
Yeah.
trusting the process. I think every time I have to reschedule something, I make sure I get into the right space about it. I'm not an apology. I mean, amends is one
Yeah.
thing, to say I'm sorry if this is affecting you, and but to bring my I guess my worthiness to it. Like there's a reason
Totally.
why, but every time I get to the right place, if it is something like rescheduling, which is like, you know, we have that should be okay. But every time someone will give me feedback like, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm so
I
glad
know.
because today actually wasn't working and I didn't want to.
Totally. Yeah. And it's like, and in those moments, it's like better for everyone. Exactly like you said,
It is. Yeah.
And one other piece I would just add is that I think one other thing for us to watch out for when the center is undefined and open is that sometimes there can be a tendency to undervalue and just not ask for what you're worth. And
Mm,
especially like in charging, or asking for a
mhm.
raise or things like that. And so it can often require a bit more effort to be like, I'm going to ask for this thing. And that's really uncomfortable, but it's such an important lesson. So I find that for people that have this white in their design, it's really good to kind of bounce numbers and fees and things off other people just
Mm.
to kind of make sure that they're really asking for what they're worth and they're not kind of getting in a position of like over giving and not really valuing themselves.
Yeah, it has so much to that one has the heart wheel has so much to do with money, and I've
Hmm.
heard someone say, like, if you have it undefined, you kinda and I experience this, it's almost like it's ephemeral, having a sense of money for myself, but we can give great advice to other people about finances.
I know. I know. I know.
I mean, and that's the way that all the undefined centers are. They're really great for other people,
Totally.
you know?
Really amazing for other people. But
Mhm.
it's good to have feedback. That's been my way to work with it of just like maybe I won't be in charge of pricing. You know what I mean? And like maybe I'll
Yeah,
just kind of have the right sounding boards around me to make sure that I'm like structuring this properly because like my tendency is to want to like give it all away.
yeah.
And so just to be aware of that and also know that if I do that consistently, I will burn out.
Yeah, that's true, and I have a hard I sort of have a hard time it all feels the same to me, like 200 and $2,000, not literally in my bank account, but
Yeah.
it's hard for me to
Yeah.
attune to it, so that's yeah, feedback, having a
Totally.
sounding board really
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah. And I just don't do the pricing in our business. It's not my job.
That's smart, that's so great. Good strategy
Be
there.
terrible at it. Yeah.
So you are an emotional,
Hmm.
authority, and I think that center and it's almost 50-50, like, between
Hmm.
in the population, but there is, like, such a there's so much, friction. I have a lot of empathy for both of us, both those who with the emotional wave
Totally.
definition and those of us without it. But I
Hmm.
think I'm wondering if part of that pressure is has a lot to do with the 2027 shift that's
Mm,
coming up because that really is focusing a lot on the solar plexus.
right.
What is your observation if you want to share either about like this pressure for the people who are highly empathic or open centers to those who have
Totally.
the roller coaster that they're always on with their emotional wave
Yeah.
and this upcoming 2027? What is your just expand on any of that?
Yeah. Well, I think one, it's such an interesting dynamic. I think that
Mhm.
like in my design, I do have these kind of like intense emotional waves and they're also unconscious.
Mhm.
And so I think it's taken a lot of time to kind of develop consciousness around them. And my husband has an entirely open emotional center. So
Oh,
he's like hyper empathic, meaning that he
yeah.
will often meaning that I set the emotional tone of our relationship and he often takes it and amplifies where I'm at. He'll
Mhm.
often sense what I'm feeling before I even know it. And so it's, which is amazing now that I know. But I think that it's been a really interesting dynamic in our relationship because I think what I really learned is that I will just have my feelings. I'll wake up in a low and for no particular reason. And my job in those moments is not for him to fix them, fix my emotions, nor is it my job to
Yeah.
know why they're there. And so it's more just to feel them and trust that they'll pass. And I think for him in those moments, I think there used to be a pressure to spend time together. And now he's so good at being like, I can sense you're in an emotional low. Enjoy your experience. I'm going to be over here. And when you are ready to reconnect, I am ready for you, And it's actually been so wonderful because it hasn't kind of led to all this unnecessary emotional intensity or trying to create reason or him personalizing it. It's more just
Mhm.
giving me space to feel my feelings,
Mm.
and his wisdom around my emotions has really helped me navigate them a bit more powerfully. So these people can be such allies for each other as long as they know how to best support each other. But it's been a really big lesson for me. And you're right. It's I have so much empathy for both sides. It's just it can feel hard sometimes. And it also as an emotional authority, it can be hard to take your time with decisions. We're not meant to
Mm.
be spontaneous and similar to you,
Yeah, right.
or way more for you, but or in the moment and waiting can feel really annoying. And I've learned that it's always worth it. And so those are, I have so much more to share about that, but that's like kind of a tidbit. I think in terms of 2027, like it does feel like, so much, one, because 50% of people have these emotional waves and they're kind of setting the tone, like their emotional health is so important for everyone. And
Yeah.
so it just feels like it's a really big area of learning for us collectively, because being able to kind of like intentionally navigate our emotions and be aware of our impact is like, it's setting the tone for the whole world around us. And so it feels like a big lesson for all of us. And it's definitely where a lot of change and evolution is happening in our design as we kind of move towards um, I don't know, over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I think that like with 2027 and Ra would have all these predictions around it, like I
Yeah.
think in all honesty, we have no idea what's going to happen.
I know.
Like I think
Yeah.
that there is evolution and change, but like I think that honestly, what it reminds us to do more than anything else is to just connect to ourselves and our designs and know that like the more aligned we are and who we are, the more able we will be to navigate whatever happens as things
Mhm.
might crumble around us or things, who knows, but like it's just a reminder to kind of really be ourselves in this moment. And
Yeah.
I think like the more healthy we all are, the more kind of positive impact we'll have. But yes, it's
Mhm.
definitely an area where it's like it is at the forefront of what's happening and how things are shifting.
Yeah. And just to fill in the audience, we're talking about 2027. We're actually shifting. I like to call it our background frequency. This is a global shift. And we're shifting from basically a tribal construct to a more individual, autonomous
Mhm.
construct. But interestingly, being more individuated and autonomous is more beneficial for the collective.
Totally.
We can see it happening though, like with the
Oh
pandemic,
yeah. Well, the
everybody.
institutions are just yeah.
Yeah, and then they called the big quit or the big resignation because nobody wanted to
Yeah.
go back to work. They're like, "Well, oh, I
Yeah.
realized I hated that, so no." So, and I was like, I know that's kind of hard. It's pressure on businesses and financial
Yeah.
institutions and everything in our economy, but I was like super happy to hear that people were like trying to stand up for themselves and starting. Probably a bunch of generators not doing things that they love, and we need them to so badly to
Right.
do
We're all
things.
impacted by that. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine how juicy and delicious if all those sacrals were doing what they love? How
I know.
amazing,
It'd be the
how
best.
beautiful it would be
Yeah.
for all of us, that hum that they have.
Yeah. And I just think people are a little bit less tolerant of like just really trying to fit into this thing that doesn't work for them. So I think that
Mhm.
like I do. And I think that like the more aware of how different we each are and how individual we each are, the more connected we become. Like I
Mhm.
don't think becoming aware of our different separates us. I think it brings us so much closer
Yeah.
together because we stop expecting others to be like us.
Mhm.
And so I think it's like such an amazing time in that way, but it's such a reminder to kind of really connect to and really trust ourselves.
Well, if you think about, I like to think of us as, especially because I'm maybe because I'm a reflector and I don't have any complete puzzle pieces in my design. So you hook into one another. And if you can think about the channels completing one another between people or
Hmm.
teams. And so if we understand, if we are celebrating or recognizing our differences, then the puzzle pieces can click together. And
100%.
that it makes so much sense now as we stand back why human design had to start to become like wildfire, more ubiquitous. Because
Yeah.
I think it really is, as they say on the Jovian Archive website, it's the user manual for your
Yeah.
operating system. And it's just like, it's so plain it really is.
Totally. And I also think when it really reveals how different we are, it reveals how much we need each other. Like,
Hmm.
especially in building teams, it's just like, oh my God, like I wanted you to be a different thing than what you are. And like, that's why it's been so challenging. But now that I know what your gifts are, I like know how to leverage them and like so much is possible for us. So I do think that it's like, we all need to be surrounded by people with a lot of different designs because it really just reminds us like how magical each of them are. Like in human design, there's no good or bad. It's not like the
Right.
design is better or worse than the other. They're just different and we just need each
Hmm.
other.
You worked a lot with teams, or do you still? You certainly did work a lot with putting people together. So would you kind of be able to get people's birth information and say, okay, here's how we kind of triangulate and support one another's gifts, and how
Yeah.
that sounds amazing. How did that work? Did people take that? Genuinely
Yeah.
take it?
Surprisingly, yes. The first iteration of my human design business was focused exclusively on that. And I would say it was a little bit early for that. I think like starting with individuals was kind of the right move and then transitioning to teams. I do still work with teams. I'm winding down a lot of kind of I'm teaching a lot right now. So it's a little bit less around teamwork and individual work, but I'm doing a team session this week. I love team sessions. But I honestly think that people are so much more open than I thought they would be. And I think it's all about how you present it. If you present it to people in a way that like, this is true and you must do this, like that's going to feel really scary.
Yeah.
But if it's more like, this is an amazing tool, like take it or leave it, and where I'm just like introducing a language for us to really reflect about how you can all work together more effectively, it can feel so much more empowering. And I just find that even like the most skeptical people, I worked with a team for a year and they were like, very never, not people that would ever end up in this. Like the boss was like a client of mine who loved human design, but like no one else on the team would be into this at all. And they were so resistant at first. And it was just so funny because with time, they were like, Erin, like, I really don't want to believe this. This is like so out there. But they're like, everything you're saying is so true. And it's so useful that like, I actually want to know everything. Like, I want to do it for my team. I like need to know my family. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just been fun to also take my time with people, and like not
Yeah.
force them to integrate it immediately because they were just like, they just reached a certain point where they're like, I can't deny this. Like, just let's do it. So it's been amazing working with teams because I think similar to many things, like I think there's a lot of friction. We want people to be different than us, but when we really understand tools to really uniquely work with each individual, whether it's who we work with or how we parent or who we partner with, it just allows us to be so much more harmonious and effective in those relationships.
And we will be right back. Hi, friend. It's Trisha Carr with an invitation for you if you are ready to accelerate your ascension and connect to the swift flow of your life mission. Mind, Body, Ascension, Acceleration Coaching. All of my clinical training, my experience from teaching and providing countless sessions and classes, one-on-one, group coaching, healing, reading, teaching, channeling, as well as my calibration as a human design reflector. I'm offering all of this to you to step up your entire life, to accelerate your ascension walk. If you've had a single session with me, if you've had coaching, or if you've experienced transformation from any of my offerings, my classes, podcasts, videos, well, this is an accelerated and exponentially charged. This is what my soul has prepared for an eternity and up to now. And if you hear this call, then this is also co-created with your soul. Your life is meant to be joy first and a service as a close and integrated second. This coaching is especially tuned for high achievers who want to accelerate their progress on their life mission and create mind-body well-being and higher attunement. Submit to work with me in this powerful container, this premium coaching. If you feel the call, you can do it. I guide, you take action. I hold the resonant projection field, channel your steps, and you take action. The first action step is to fill out an application, the link to which you will find in the description. Be prepared, be ready to upgrade your mind, body ascension, and your connection and flow with your spiritual mission. And now back to the show. Are you a parent now? I believe you just had a baby, or are you?
Not yet. I'm 6 weeks out. 7. I mean, who knows when she's coming? You know what I mean?
I can't tell. You just like from the neck up.
I know. Honestly, I don't have a huge belly, but she's a total normal size. I'm just tall. But yeah, I'm 33 weeks pregnant. My first kid.
Oh, how exciting! Yes, I just think this is so exciting too, that people are able to parent and with their child's design in mind. There is, again, Tressa Rivera. She talks about it that a lot. She has 3 boys. And she posts reels about it, like how she has a projector and a generator, I know. And like with her generator son, when he gets frustrated playing blocks,
Yeah.
he's like really little, she'll come and ask him yes or no questions if he wants to keep going or not, and it's so cute.
But it's so crazy with kids because kids also express their design so much more purely.
Yeah.
Like they're often living their design like so fully, and then they get conditioned out of it as they grow older, and then they kind of come back to it later in life. But like when parents really are equipped with the knowledge of their kids' human design and they're able to support them in it from the beginning, it's just amazing how much permission you're giving them to be themselves, So
Mm-hmm.
I would say family sessions and parenting are some of my favorite things to explore because like the child can be 2 and they still are observing all the things. And they're like, oh my God, like I've been so frustrated with them because like I thought they were going to do it like me. And now that I know how different they are, it's like so fun to actually really support them in that.
Oh, that's so cool. One of my close friends, she's her baby's just 1 year old, And she was saying she seems to, when she was very little, she was like, she's obsessed with animals. And I was like, does she gate 19? And she does. And she's just
Oh,
like so obsessed with every animal, talking to, babbling at a cat that's walking by, just assuming that they can understand one. Oh, I guess they can understand one another.
yeah. So cute. It's amazing. It's like
Mhm.
so I can't wait to learn the design of my child, and
Oh
just
my
see
gosh.
see what happens. But it's such a beautiful application of human design.
So did you say about 33? So, okay. So her design crystal was already in,
Already
put in. So
in.
that's cool.
Yeah,
It's exciting to imagine.
it is. So yeah, I'm 33 weeks. So again, I mean, obviously we have no idea when she's gonna come, but
Yeah.
we're guessing a couple weeks early, but I'm hoping I make it a little
Oh.
bit longer. Um, but yeah, I mean, I can sense and like I could be so entirely wrong, but I think that it definitely feels like she's gonna have a very different design than me and like a very different type,
Mhm.
which is fun to see, and I'm married to a generator, so we already have different types in the household, but I just can't wait to see who she is.
Do, I've heard, I think it was Karen Curry Parker say, I'm not sure. She said, and it was in the middle of some talking about something else. All she said was, "You get your design from your grandparents," and then she kept talking, and I was like, What does that mean? Do you have any?" And then, by the way, after that, I looked up and I found out that my paternal grandmother was either a 5-1 or 5-2, because I don't know her birth time exactly, but the whole day was
Yeah.
either 5-1 or 5-2 reflector, and so
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
so
and
crazy.
I'm a
Yeah.
5-1 reflector, so yeah.
Right. There is a thing where it like skips a generation where it is kind of like we have a lot of, I think if I'm remembering correctly, it's like we have a lot of similarity. And I don't remember whether it's to the mother or father or I mean whatever family dynamic side there is, but there
Mhm.
is more of a connection to the grandparents.
Yeah, so that was on
Um
my father's. I don't know any of the other grandparents' birthdays. I couldn't even
yeah.
find it in Ancestry, but
Well,
I
it's
thought that was
hard. I mean,
amazing.
I have no idea what the birth time is of my grandparents. I
Yeah.
still don't even know the birth time of my mom,
Me neither. I
but
know.
there is like it does kind of skip and there is a lot of similarity there. But it is,
I
yeah. Go
I just
ahead.
get I got lucky, like, with my mom. I don't know her profile, but the whole day is a sacral manifesting generator, so I was
Yeah,
able to,
my
like,
mom's a
pin that
manifestor
down.
all day. So yeah, I'm like, she's an ego manifestor in some form all day long. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, we talked about some of the more modern, elaborating upon the original material, and that the concept of specific and non-specific manifestor
Mhm.
variable. I actually just learned. I didn't realize that that's attributed to Jenna Zoe. Did you know that?
I
Do you
did
know
know
her?
that.
Do you know Jenna?
We have talked,
Probably
but
worked
I don't know her
together.
well. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How do you relate to that? Because I just learned that that was something from Jenna, and then I was talking to a friend of mine who's a reader. I'm
Yeah.
specific, I'm focused. And oh, by the way, I should preface in case anyone's curious. What I'm referring to in your chart, there's 4 arrows around the head, and it is the arrow that's on the bottom as you look at it, bottom right. And if it's pointing left, then it's specific, and right, then it's non-specific. So if anybody's
Correct.
like
Yeah.
wanting to catch what that is. But so I was like, I don't understand what the difference is between them. And my friend who's right explained to me her non-specificity in manifesting. And I was like, oh, that is so different. And I
Mhm.
totally am specific. So
Mhm.
what is your experiment with that, whether with clients or yourself?
Yeah, I think it's just important to kind of acknowledge where things come from. I just
Mm-hmm.
finished teaching
Mm-hmm.
200 students, about human design, and I think it was important to kind of really share just where it came from because I think my challenge with that kind of concept is that it really oversimplifies that arrow and just is like
Mm,
it's just about this. It's just about how we manifest. And
yeah.
Rod didn't talk about it. Rod did not talk about manifestation in the same way as there is a lot of talk about it now. And there's so much more underneath that arrow. And so I think that the conversation loses all that nuance,
Mm,
And
mm-hmm.
so I think my feeling, as with honestly all things human design, is like if that concept feels supportive and useful, absolutely take it in. Like I'm not going to be
Mm-hmm.
like, it didn't come from Ra, like just ignore it, because it has foundations in what that arrow is about. And there's so much more to it,
Yeah.
and I think the more you understand, the better you can really, work with it because like that arrow specifically, again, the bottom right one is so much around how we view and perceive the world. And
Mm-hmm.
those who have it facing left view and perceive the world in a very focused way, in a really kind of detailed way. They just like
Mm-hmm.
zoom in and see something very specific. Whereas those who have it facing right have a much more peripheral view, a much wider view. They kind of like step back and see the full picture, and this is not just about how you manifest, but how you see the world,
Mhm.
and so it does make sense that when you are really envisioning things you want to create, some might have a more natural tendency to like set specific goals and know exactly what it will look like. Whereas others, really are like, I know what I want it to feel like and like
Mhm.
what I want the like vibe to be, but like how it manifests, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I think my feeling around it is like, take it if it feels good. I will, and I shared that in the course, and know that like it is just the tip of the iceberg with that arrow, and there's so much more to it. And so like I also don't want to I want people to go deeper into it as well, because that will
Right.
only bolster their understanding of it.
Well, and I can see that when I first heard that, and I probably heard it from someone doing a reel saying that's what this is, and I was like, that whole arrow is only about that. I remember having the sense of that,
Yeah.
thinking like that can't be all it's about, but also understanding that sometimes we just need a little tip of something in order to start to feel into it, like
Yeah.
what the 5 energy is, and if you're a 5-1 or something,
Yeah.
and yeah, I as being my view perspective is focused.
Yeah.
I've always kind of thought of myself as seeing things more linearly or literally in order to
Yeah.
be able to grasp it.
Yeah.
And whereas my husband is non-specific, or is what do you call that perspective?
Peripheral.
Peripheral. Thank you.
Or is it receptive? No,
N-
peripheral. Yeah.
well, I have your
Not
chart and you
forget.
have let's
That's
see, view
receptive.
perspective.
It's
Peripheral.
receptive. Peripheral.
Yeah, peripheral.
I'm just like, I've lost it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's such similar, yeah,
Yeah.
concepts. And
Yeah.
he's more like it's so like conceptual, and there's like all these bubbles floating around, So it makes and honestly, having that information didn't really change the way that I was already envisioning or creating, because I already, by my own empirical evidence, like, well, if I envision this way and then I raise my faith underneath it, it will happen. And maybe not
Hmm.
exactly as I wanted it to, but with the feeling tone that I wanted. So in a
Yeah.
way, we're getting back to that. It has to be embodied. It has to be accurate for you.
Totally. And I think that like, and also receptive is the top arrow. Sorry about that confusion. Peripheral, we were right, is the bottom right.
Glad you could track it.
But I will say that like there's so much misunderstanding, I would say specifically in human design, about all the variables, about all those
Yeah.
arrows, especially that
There's not
top
a lot
left
of
one.
content about it, right? I
Oh no,
mean,
no.
there's
There's like I had to go through a traditional education of like 4 or 5 years before I was able to take a course, and then I took a 3-year course just on the arrows.
Mhm.
But like it required so many years before that, and like it was so fun to finally teach about it in my course, because like I was just like, oh my god, I just want to like break down all the misunderstandings I see and like finally have the space for it. But yeah, there's just a lot of like misunderstanding. Like, there's a lot of talk of like that top left arrow being like, if it's facing left, you have routine. Facing right, no routine. It's like, no, so much more complicated than that. So,
Yeah.
and again, like if it's useful for people, like amazing. But I think that I've had
Mhm.
enough people come to me and say that I heard this and it really didn't feel supportive and it really didn't resonate, that I think it's really reminded me of the need to kind of really educate about these things in just a more holistic way, so people kind of have all the information and then can kind of choose what to do with it.
This is so great. Your course, you do teach about variable in your course.
Hmm.
Yes? So tell us
Yes.
about your course. I'm sorry, I haven't asked you yet. I'm like,
Oh my God, you
people
know
are
what
like,
else? Yeah.
how are you offering it? When are you offering it? Yeah, all of that stuff. I want to know all of
Yeah.
it.
Well, I think that, I have desired to teach human design for a long time. And I've been asked for probably the last 5 years. And like every year I'm like, this is the year. But like it never was right. Like the timing was never right. And I think that like I still had more to learn in terms of sessions. And we just didn't want to do it before the time was right. And so I launched my first course this year. We just finished. It was a 12-week course. We had 200 students in this first round. It was amazing.
Nice.
And I did teach on variables. People were so excited about it. And like, it was so sweet. I had a woman reflect. She's like, I've gone through like all the source material. I've done so many courses. Like I would just pay for like that course literally just for the variables.
I know.
Cause like,
That's what I was like. Can you just do variable? I
yeah,
mean, I'll
she's
pay the
like,
same, but
she was like, literally, I just like really, and it was so funny. I was like, wow, there's just so little education about this, because
Mhm.
she'd been like, should I go through the like traditional route? I'm like, you're not going to get access to it for 5 years,
Yeah.
for, I don't remember what it is now, but anyways, so right now I am working my butt off to really kind of like learn all the lessons from this first iteration and prepare an even better version that won't be live, because I'm not going to have the capacity my first couple months with my child, I believe,
Yeah. Yeah.
and launch that actually in November. So I
Oh,
had like the
great.
most probably productive pregnancy of my life. So I'm kind of like in this phase of just
Dang.
really kind of like, right. I mean, thank God I've had energy and felt good, but writing all the content for that now. And so the idea is that we'll launch a new version in November where people can really kind of go through it on their own terms. And we do
Mhm.
have a live membership community you can join if you're like, I need space to ask questions and things like that. But it's really fun. I mean, like I've just gone through and spent so much money and spent so much time and really and every educational resource that I could find out there. And then this course is very much kind of accumulation of it all. And it's the educational resource that I like always wanted but could never find. And it's
Mm.
so much more oriented towards like how to actually apply the knowledge, like giving people the foundation and then talking about like, how do you actually apply this to parenting? What about career and leadership?
Yeah.
What about partnership? You know, because I just felt like that was missing. And so it has a very kind of practical and empowering lens. And it's been so fun. It really, it's the students have been amazing. The course has been so fun. Like it's really more, it's been pretty magical in ways that I could have never imagined.
Wow. And so it'll be on demand, like all the time for people?
On demand all the time
Oh,
for people.
that's so
I know.
great.
It
I
is.
love
That's why
that.
I'm like, I know that I'm 33 weeks pregnant, but my God, is this going to feel good to get this done? You
Get
know,
it
and it's
done.
so fun. You know what I mean? Like I love writing this stuff, but I've written like hundreds of pages in the past week.
Oh
So I
gosh.
will get off this podcast and I will keep writing.
Do you do you have you published a book yet? Or
Um,
this is probably a catalyst for it, right?
This is definitely, I am writing a book right now
Mhm.
by creating this course, which I didn't anticipate. Um, yeah, I've talked to a lot of publishers and agents over the years, and again, the timing hasn't totally felt right. So I think that I will make this book available as well. And then I think also we'll probably sell a book next year as well about kind of,
Great.
that's a little bit less around like a human design manual, which this will be more and more around kind of just like the application of human design.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you because there's a lot of okay, th knowing that you're a projector and you have such a great platform and, I heard, I'm not going to say who I heard this from because I may be not having the same opinion of this person. This person said in marketing was talking about marketing, the different
Yeah.
types in marketing, and they said that, um, projectors really shouldn't have themselves out there too much, that on their website, they should have one little tiny photo, like, on the 3rd page, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? I wanna see everyone's face." And you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't agree with that person, at least not for me, not if you're marketing to me. I wanna see your face if I'm gonna
Yeah.
learn from you. So, I was wondering, I think maybe there is a consideration of how to market from your type, but also maybe the profile, is that probably the most cohesive way to understand how marketing works for you?
Yeah, I think, and it was so funny. I had a lot, we talked a lot about marketing in the course, and the things we looked
Mm,
at are your type, your strategy, your undefined centers, your profile,
mhm,
and your channels.
mhm.
And so those are often the pieces that I look to. But it is interesting because, like, I'm a 6'2" profile. So much of my design is doing things in the way that feels easeful and natural to me. And like, I've been tempted to take so many marketing courses over the years. Like, I even signed up for one of my partners, like, Erin, like, he's like, whatever you're doing is working, even though it's not really supposed to. So just like stick with it. No need to expose yourself to other things, you know? And it's been really fun, just like, you know, like my posts are like long, you know what I mean? It's like, they're like
Mhm,
these like blog posts that really are not like the quippy short Instagram
mhm.
thing. And so like I think marketing for me has really been around just doing what feels really exciting and authentic to me and like and sharing a lot. I don't show my face very often. And actually like our
Yeah.
new website, a new brand like doesn't really feature me at all.
Oh,
But
really? Oh,
mhm.
interesting.
I mean, and also it's because of where we are as a company. You know, I think that I
Mm,
did show my face more and we're just growing beyond me. You know, so
mhm,
it's not really about me anymore. It's about like
mhm.
all the people that we can now recommend and the community that we're building. So it is an interesting dance. I will say my biggest lesson as a projector is around visibility. You know, I think that like people cannot invite us in and create opportunities for us to share our gifts if they don't know that we exist. And
Yeah.
so our biggest marketing strategy over the past whatever many years has just been like visibility. And that's been sharing on Instagram. It's been being on podcasts, being in newsletters or sharing newsletters and like it's never with the assumption that I'm going to resonate with most of the people, but I know that like putting myself out there allows me to resonate with the right ones. So
Mhm.
that's been like it's been so much more successful than initiating. We've never done any kind of paid marketing. We definitely will at some point, but it's more just like, how can I just share what I'm excited about and just trust that that will magnetize the right people?
That's great, and, so I'm a 5'1", and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really shifting from working with individuals because my energy is just more optimized working with, a lot of people, with
Yes,
groups.
totally. Yep.
And it's interesting. I've also gotten to the place where I'm not, I'm not really, and maybe never really have been that much affected by negative projection either, trolls or something like that.
It's usually all positive at first. Yeah.
It is, it's true. But if you're like on YouTube, anyone,
Totally.
there's trolls up in there anyway. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
usually. I'm also, as I've matured, I think the positive, the hyper positive projection, it doesn't like, I just go, oh, good. Then now you're open to work and to do your work. And
Totally.
I don't know, it's interesting, but I think with the 5 energy, probably showing, putting something to project on it makes a lot of sense, right? So, because I think that when I do, I don't know, memes or something like that, they're not as successful because I don't know.
I know. I've never really understood memes, but I'm
I don't
just
either. I
totally.
just don't understand them.
I don't understand them. I would say what I would say is if I won, I don't know whether this resonates with you. One, marketing from the one is very much kind of marketing your expertise.
Mhm.
It's just like letting people know that your foundation's strong. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're like, I know what I'm talking about. Like I've been doing this. Like I have tended to the foundation. I like really like you can trust me as an authority. Like kind of giving people this kind of sense of like security and solidity. And marketing from the 5 is knowing that you just see things in a really kind of like innovative and new way.
Yeah.
And you just like are here to kind of like solve problems and offer solutions that are just like not what people have seen before. And so really kind of like leading with those. But like you said, it's like people can project things onto you. And so it's just being like super clear and explicit with others around like, this is exactly what you can expect from me. And this is
Mhm.
what I can offer. And like, I'm gonna actually leave no space for you to form unrealistic expectations because like I'm just unavailable for it, you know? And it sounds like you're at a point in your life where it's like you're just so tuned into it that you're not going to kind of get wrapped up in or seduced by people's visions of you if they don't actually feel aligned.
Thank you for that. I didn't intend to expect you to give me advice. But when you're saying about marketing from the one, and I've felt before, like the investigator who has, expertise and has a lot of
Yeah.
information, and also as, excuse me, what am I? A reflector,
Yeah.
tends to see a big picture. And
Hmm.
and so I have actually felt conditioning from other people like, oh, you're giving too much, you're speaking too much about, people won't get that. And I'm like, that's okay, they can get some of it or not, and that's what feels
Totally.
good to me. Like how you're saying
Hmm.
what feels good to you is what works.
100%. And not everyone's going to get it,
Yeah,
you know?
and
And
that's okay.
like, yeah. And like as a reflector, especially, it's like you just see and sense things that most people don't. And the right people are like, oh my God, like your
Mhm.
wisdom and perspective is like the biggest treasure. And like other people will go over their heads. I'm like, who cares? You
Yeah.
know, like I just think it's a good lesson for all of us in marketing. It's like, it makes us available for the right people. It doesn't make us like resonant or, for all the people.
Yeah, I don't it's I find it really interesting if you think about some people who are, let's say Oprah,
Yeah.
she didn't know better human design, I'm sure. I don't even know, maybe she does now.
We got to get to her, right?
We gotta get to her. But she's always been following her strategy,
Oh
pretty
yeah. She's
much.
living it.
She's
Yeah.
living it hard, and she's interviewing people and responding to them, and that's so cool. It just,
Totally.
yeah.
And she's a
And
2-4.
she, exactly, yeah. And so networking, she's got that 4 energy working for her. I have one tiny little 4. It's like in my unconscious Saturn or something. I'm like, I have no 4
Oh
energy.
my God, that's hilarious. You're so right. You've got one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not common, I think, because I'm pretty balanced in all of the other ones.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so oh no, you have two.
I do. I have 2 4s. I
I
thought I
see.
had one.
I
Oh, we're
think
looking.
that you have it in gate 15 and gate 18, if I'm seeing that correctly.
Oh, down in
Um,
my Pluto.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, but anyways, I think that like it is yeah, so it is really fun to kind of witness well-known people and see how they're living their designs because often like human designs can be very validating or very confronting. But when you really know yourself and you're really kind of like living in a way that feels authentic, you're living your design. I see
Hmm.
this with my husband all the time. You know what I mean? Like he loves it, like he knows all the things, but I'm like, he's doing it all. He always
Yeah.
has. So I'm just more like, oh, this is so fun for me to just have a language for how he operates, but like he's living it. So it's like when people know themselves, like this is just going to be like a validation for the path they're on.
Hmm. Mm. Wow. I I'm just like, I could talk to you for hours and hours, but I don't want to keep your 33 and a half weeks pregnancy.
I know. Well, I'm just like, I'm keeping this energy for as long as she's going to give it to me, and then I will fold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what are any last ideas or thoughts for people if, let's say, someone has started their, design or something? Because if they've listened to this podcast, I've been having so much, of course,
Yeah,
so
I'm
much
sure.
human design on it. Any idea, any tips or something like that about how to live in it or work with it in a daily sense, or some practices that may have
Yeah.
helped you?
I think the biggest thing is to take your time with it.
Yeah.
It can be a little bit overwhelming at first.
Hmm.
And just know that like it's one piece at a time. Like I think of human design as an awareness system. I think the more we kind of like read it and learn about our unique design, we can just observe how it's showing up in our day-to-day life and be like, oh, this is why this is not working. So it's just like having a tool you can keep returning to. Definitely start with your type, strategy, and authority if you're kind of wondering
Hmm.
where to begin. And I also would recommend that you be really discerning about kind of who you get information from,
Hmm.
and like
Mm.
there's not going to be the same teacher for everybody, but I just think that like human design is very much meant to be an empowering and expansive system. And so there's any part of you where it's being delivered and you're like, oh, I feel really constricted and confined and I feel awful about it. Like, let it go. Like find a
Yeah.
teacher that feels better to you. And so just as with all things, like we share things through the lens we see the world through. So just being conscious of that. But I would just say like start small, take your time and look at the designs of the people close to you. I'm like, this is like such a projector thing to do, but I just think it's really beneficial for all of us because it will help you ground the information and see it in different ways. And I will say, one thing that was so helpful in the course is that like so much of the course was sharing. I'd be like, okay, this is what a 1-3 is. And then like 1-3s would just talk about their life experience. And it was just so useful for people to be like, oh, like this is how it's showing up. And so
Yeah.
I would just not underestimate the power of just like actually witnessing how it's showing up with the people close to you.
I just joined a few, like I think 2 Facebook groups for 5-1s, and it's
Cool.
been really cool just to watch them
Yeah.
and watching them have conversations like that are almost confrontational, but no one really getting like upset or triggered in a way,
Yeah. Oh, I
even
love
if
that.
they're. I know, because I'm like, look at y'all, you're okay with
Yeah.
with the
You're pushing
disruption.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah. You're
you could have,
provocative.
and you
Yeah.
can handle it, and you can be provoked too, and not
Totally.
like. So I've been encouraging my clients. I'm like, Facebook groups, you can find a Facebook group with your profile. That's a good way. Although
Yeah.
probably the 4-1s, I don't know if there is one. There's a 4-1 group.
I
Do you
hope
know any
so.
4-1s?
Many actually.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I had a lot of great 4-1s in the course. And one of my best friends is a 4-1. And
Oh, cool.
witnessing his life path has been like the most useful thing for me to really help me understand the 4-1.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
what I also put in, not only the people who are close to me, and I have one close friend who's a 4-1, and
Yeah.
he's just 4-1 and the place down.
Yeah.
And I put in also, I put in like famous people or something
Oh,
whose
yeah.
person. It's harder when they're actors because they're not acting like themselves. But if somehow, if it's a
Hmm.
singer or something, which by the way, most of the singers I put in I've looked at their design, they have defined throats.
Also, like most celebrities have a 5 in their profile.
Oh, so they want to, they're going to shake things up a little bit. That's interesting. I didn't
It's
notice that. But the 5-1 is such a common profile too, so it makes
It
sense.
is,
Yeah.
but it's like I had somebody be like, "You cover so many 5s when you cover celebrities." I'm like, "I know, they're all 5s. I'm looking for new ones. But
They're all
it
getting
is
projected on.
I totally.
They're all
Um,
movie screens.
yeah.
Hmm. That's amazing. Okay, and then of course, so we have your course that's about to be available on demand. What was the date? It's in November. Do you have a date yet?
No date.
Okay, but it's in November,
Yes.
and we don't have a date on that. It's gestating. Hopefully, it's before your baby comes, or
Praying.
somebody
Well,
else will take it
my
over.
my my work on it is going to be done by the end of this
Good.
month.
Okay. Good.
So then I'll hand it
Yeah.
over. But that if you want to sign up for the wait list, you can do that at erinclairejones.com/blueprint plus.
Great. And then you can also get your blueprint. You want
Yes.
to tell everyone about the blueprint?
Of course. So I would say one of the best places to get started is something called the Blueprint book. And it really is it's a 55 plus page guide all about your unique design. So it walks you through all the most important pieces we talked about today: profile, undefined centers, defined centers, channels, type, strategy, authority, all that stuff, and tools to work with it. It's meant to be very practical and empowering and not like teach you human design and get you lost in the jargon, but more show you how to use your human design to live a more aligned life. And so, like I said, in terms of human design as an awareness system, it's like people will read their blueprint every like day, every
Yeah.
week, every month as a way to just be like, oh, this is why this is working, or this is why it's not. And it's full of examples and questions. So it really is focused on like how to actually apply the information about your unique design.
Anything else that we should know about that in a way that people can work with you or engage with everything that you are putting out there in this beautiful world?
Yeah, my last new offering is something called Blueprint Sessions. We just launched it a couple weeks ago, and it is a monthly membership community. It's a bit more of a niche thing. It's for like human
Cool.
design readers and human design lovers. And
Ooh.
basically, I know you would be great.
I would, yeah. What kind of platform is it
Join.
on?
It's so I basically it is we use a platform called Circle, so that's where kind of
Okay.
our community is.
Thank you.
But once a month, I will go live and do a reading. And then we'll kind of debrief it together and people will ask all their questions. And so it really is a way to kind of dive deep into human design, not through just giving people more information, but
Yeah.
through case studies and live readings. And there's like the most amazing community that's come together around it. And so our first reading last week was with the reflector because that was highly requested. Next, I think
Yeah.
will be somebody with the defined centers or all the variables. So it's been really fun. It's like it's such a such an organic thing. You know, I basically am choosing people to read based on what people want to hear. And it's just a really cool new way to teach and learn human design because like we can read the things only so much, but like actually having a live reading and talking through it is really so revealing and so useful, especially if you want to share this with other people.
That's amazing. I am so in. So we definitely have all the
Yeah.
links for all of the offers in the show notes, everyone. And that's super exciting. Again, experiencing it,
Yeah.
experimenting with it, conversations, sharing.
It's the best.
Otherwise, we're just going to be conditioning everyone else by what's natural for us.
Totally. Totally. It's so cool. I'm so enjoying that new form of education. It's just like, I've never seen anything like it in human design. It's just really cool to kind of have that space to just like be in it together.
Awesome. Well, Erin, this has been beyond all of my wildest dreams. So I'm very,
Oh,
very surprised.
oh my God. Also, wait, we forgot to say there's a discount code for the Blueprint book. The discount
Oh,
code is Charmed.
okay. It's
Yeah.
and that's link in the show notes too for the
Yes.
Blueprint book. That's so great. Thank you for that. So you'll just need to put in is it a promo code or is it an affiliate link?
Well, it can be either. We can
Oh,
talk
okay
about
then.
that. Whatever you
So
want.
find it find it in the show notes. You'll get a discount to
Yeah.
be able to get that blueprint. So
Yeah. But you can
wonderful.
go to humandesignblueprint.com. That's where you'll get it. And then, yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Such a
thank you again.
pleasure.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming on. You're just such a light, and I just appreciate the work that you're doing on our beautiful world.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me.
I could just talk for hours with her. It's like I want to vicariously do all of the study that she did. And she's so generous with her time and with her wisdom. Boy, I love projectors. I mean, I don't mean to say that I don't love any other person or any other type, but you know what? I'm married a projector, so obviously I'm partial to them in some ways. So do be sure. I'm really excited to grab that blueprint book that Erin offers. She is giving a discount to the Charmed Life listeners. I believe the code is Charmed. So be sure to grab that. You can find it in the show notes and be sure to grab that. And I'm so excited about this course and the community that she has. I love live courses, but I also love on-demand courses to be able to take your time with it and really be with the information. And then to have that community to be able to, ask questions and connect with others. It's such a great time. And I appreciate Erin for offering all these things that she is. So that's what I have for you in this episode. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for individuating and learning about how incredibly beautiful and different that you are. And thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.